3 minutes. Okay, can I have a mover and seconder for the apologies? Elwyn and Marcus. All those in favour? Contrary? Carried. Any disclosures of members' interests? Joe. It's the discussion in general, but Joe just stood up behind you, Roger. Okay. Thanks, Roger. Were there any other disclosures? Okay. Late items? There are none. Thank you. Confirmation of the order of the meeting. We've just got a bit of a change that we're suggesting, Gary. Mike wanted to be here for the discussion on the C1, 2 and 3, 3M's discussion, Mike Pettit. So, Gary, have you got some info from Helen? Can she change the time?
Yes, thank you, Bishop. Helen Atkins is available at 1 p.m. So we could complete the meeting and then adjourn it until 1 p.m. and we can have a workshop on the revenue and finance policy during that period.
Yep, move to Andrew and Elwyn second. All those in favour? Contrary? Carried. Okay, item 5. Any updates around the table? Elwyn? No? Right. Yeah.
I went out to Horror School last week and delivered Horror School at the 20th of the day. Horror School delivered 3 delivered 3 pest control traps. I said I'd get them some more, so I delivered those out there last week. A couple of weeks ago, we at Destination Cambridge put it on a morning tea for the Parks and Reserves team and other voluntary groups like Tree Trust and Cambridge Community Gardens, just to say thanks for all the work you do around Cambridge and helping us with the Most Beautiful Street award that we won. So we did that a few weeks ago. We've got the community house opening of the new building tomorrow. And then asked to go to Bupa the other day to just talk and give them an update on things to the residents and things like that. So, yeah.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Roger?
Yeah, just a round of celebratory Christmas events,
Yeah.
as we all have been involved in. So, yep.
Roger.
Myself and Susan attended the Institute Directors course last week, and yeah, it was very well worthwhile and beneficial. And I think we're going to do the exams next. Yeah, and become chartered members. But yeah, a lot of new skills and things with it. Yeah, thoroughly recommend it.
It was a full week.
Yep,
Yeah.
it certainly was.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, following on from that, stayed for was it 5 nights? Really intense and very valuable. It's got to help you crystallize your thinking around and being a bit more disciplined around governance issues. Not an entirely accurate fit with a lot of the discussions there in terms of most of it centers around sort of the commercial world. So there was some slight, that didn't really relate to us or mismatches, if you like. But in general terms, it really, really valuable lessons to be learnt in that space. So if anybody's really keen or wants to have, look at what it was, let me know and I can bring all the research, the resource books and course outlines, and you can have a look through them. I think Mike's toying with the idea of doing it, as is Liz. So that's you'll have a great time. And I mean, the people you meet and the intelligence and the experience is just phenomenal. Yeah, really well worth it. There were 24 participants. And you go they put you into a mock board scenario with a mock board of 6 people running a board that a company called Delicious Pies. You'll never look at delicious foods. You'll never look at frozen pies the same again, but definitely worth it.
Well, that's good feedback, and even the commercial side of things is good value, isn't it? Because at least you're knowing how the other side of thinking as well.
And the other thing too, I think, is we were kind of like curiosities, weren't we? These strange people from local government, you know, what are you doing here? And everybody was sort of wanting to talk to us, and why were you here? And what do you know, when we told them what we got earned, they were like, oh my God, you're angels, you're absolute paragons of virtue. Wouldn't get out of bed for that kind of thing. So yeah, it was quite, I think it was quite a good, I think we did a pretty good job sort of representing local government in that space too. And Waipa, yeah. We won the quiz. There's a quiz and we won it. So yeah, like really, really valuable, really valuable. Wholeheartedly recommend it.
Oh, great.
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, so just a couple of items for me. So I had the pleasure of attending on behalf of you, Jim, the Mātakitaki unveiling of the po in Pirongia on Friday with King Tuheitia and his royal household. So yeah, that was a real honour and a really good day, very warm day actually, but a really good day. And of course, we had the 200th anniversary of Mātakitaki coming up in 2 years' time. So yeah, so that's something I guess we'll be working towards. Also attended the St. John's Youth Awards last weekend, and yeah, so really good to see that those kids in Cambridge are still attending and doing a lot of community service. So yeah, very pleasure to be there for that. A couple of other little things. So we had the third bridge meeting last week with the Chamber of Commerce, hosted by the Chamber of Commerce, and just wanted to pay particular mention to Dawn and Brian, who presented the slideshow. They did an incredible job. They really, I was really impressed actually, Gary. Yeah, just represented Waipa very, very well, very concise. The presentation was excellent. I was really, really impressed and proud that they, presented in the way that they did. It wasn't an easy group. So yeah, it was good.
So let's just general feel, and apologies for not getting there, general feel community understanding or?
I think the room was certainly divided. So there are a number of people there who are very, very keen to see a bridge, the location of the bridge. I think there's a general understanding that, hey, maybe that we won't build it right now, but the location is imperative. The other sense around the room for me was that, yeah, there's a great understanding that cycleways are important to alleviate the congestion and parking in town. So the work that we're doing in that space, I think, has been really well received, especially, with the new subdivisions and things like that. So, yeah, I think, that's probably the tone that I kind of got to it. The other thing we did promise too is that we would report back in June 2021 once we have had our high-level bridge reporting done on the strength of it and I guess how solid it is and that side of things. So we said it would reconvene that meeting then and be able to give the group a bit more information as to where things are at. And by then, of course, we'd have been through the LTP process, so it will be either in or out, and so yeah, that will be I guess another signal to the community around where council is heading.
So your feel is that we would probably get a submission for the long-term plan to include it?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I think the planning, I think the sense I have from the community, and I have had for a long time, is that the planning for the bridge is something that the community would really like to see. Determining where the location is, but to do that we need to do, we've got a number of reports that we really are going to see come to fruition because they're already being worked on, but we'll see the outcome of those reports within the next 6-7 months, and that will then give us a really good basis for how we proceed forward. So that obviously the transport strategy that we've talked about, there's a lot of, I think, information that will come out of that. Again, we will be heavily engaged with our communities. So yeah. I think once we get to June, we will have a very good understanding of where we need to go.
Yeah, thanks, Liz.
So following on from that, just a couple of other things. So I just want to make mention too of the Friends of Council function that happened. I know it seems like quite a long time ago at the Sir Don Rowland Centre, but I think Brad Olsen presenting to the group just created another element, and I think it was a really good turnout, and it's something we want to continue to do. I thought it was a really good function, and seeing the calibre of people that attended, I thought it was really, really good, Jim.
Yeah, well, it was great to have Brad there, that's for sure. It certainly is an entertaining speaker and very relevant at the moment. So yeah. Thinking caps on for next year as to we could invite.
Well, that's the hard part, is keeping the calibre of it. And look, just lastly, Sue Milner and I, we just attended a couple of things recently together. Our Chooser Club, we presented to them around, council, some of the council projects and things that are happening around the table, and also the Christmas festival opening in the Cambridge Town Hall, which has been going for a number of years, and we went to their formal opening as well. And just want to recognise the group, the volunteer group that have been running that festival since, gosh, I don't know how many years they've been going, but well before, in the 90s or potentially even in the 80s, and prior to that at the St. Stephen's Church. So yeah, it's a real icon for Cambridge, and yeah, it's lovely to see that it's still strong and it's strengthened numbers and things. So yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Just thank you. We attended the Emergency Management or Civil Defence Joint Committee, of course, and representatives there. There's not a lot to report back other than, as I stated earlier, the availability of some of the funds carried over from last year for water supply. So I think I've actually represented that before, so everyone's aware of it. I also attended the Urban Mobility Workshop meeting for Council on last Friday, the 4th of December, along with Councillor Gordon. And I think it was excellent that we're developing a high level area for urban mobility within our towns and infrastructures that we can present to the public over time. So I think it's really an important issue to continue with.
Thanks.
Thank you, Your Worship. I attended the monthly ComSafe meeting, and just a few points. We've increased Mandy Mercenaries, a community safety officer's hours from 90 to 120 a month because of the amount of time she's putting in. She hasn't been charging for those extra 30, which is pretty good, and she's doing a fantastic job. I've also heard in the wind, but I'm not 100%. We applied to the government's COVID relief fund, and I think we've got 14,000, which was about what the golf tournament made. So that will make a heck of a difference to the finances and keeping things going. Just because this is the last meeting, the patroller kilometres travelled during this year, and this is not counting December, up to the end of the month, November was 17,500. So they cruised around the place everywhere. I'm sorry, it's not over Cambridge way, which we'd like to do, but that's just a few figures. And the patroller voluntary hours is 1,575. So there's community volunteers that have put that much into it. We've got 2 potential trustees on board or coming on soon, so that'll make things a lot easier. And we're looking to push junior neighbourhood support. It's there. Ray Cullen's a trustee and Jan's giving up, so we're just going to try and squeeze her a little bit, see if she could help us, especially getting into the schools, because the young ones are the ones that tell the truth and tell a few stories about what's happening around the place, and they don't realise what they're doing. So if we can get into that sort of avenue of what's happening within schools, it'll be fantastic. Yeah, no, so it's all good. Yep. Okay,
just before we go to Graham, you might recall we put a note round in terms of filming the council meeting, and everyone was happy with that, and the film crew's here, so they'll just be in filming as we go. So
no sound.
So there's no sound at the moment. So yeah, Graham.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship.
Yeah.
I just really wanted to build on a few things over the third bridge meeting with the Chamber. It was evident from what people were saying that they weren't aware of a number of components that are making up our decision. Like a lot of people said we should have the bridge there. They made up their mind that's where the bridge was going to go. But I think it was a surprise that the lower level bridge was underused. We've got that export traffic coming from State Highway 3 right through from New Plymouth and the heavy traffic associated with that. There was just a whole lot of components there that I think people got a real sense of. There's just not one issue. There's 5, 6, 10 issues that decide where that bridge is going to go and at what capacity. And the other thing I think that was very surprising was that we're at the current flow of traffic are not able to get a 50% subsidy from NZTA in terms of helping fund that bridge. So I think Liz, help me if I'm wrong, I think she talked about how much it was going to be on ratepayers' rates for 30 years. And
yes, correct. And the fact that, hey, at some point or another, that conversation, a hard conversation needs to be held around, is it a Cambridge cost or a district-wide cost?
Yeah.
Yes.
So but that's what I'm trying to say is a lot of information got. I think it was very useful from that point of view of giving people a broader perspective of what's involved in that decision.
Yeah. Okay. So look, I suppose from my perspective, the important thing really is that the community needs to know that the council are not ignoring it. We all appreciate that there's going to need to be a third bridge at some point, or a second bridge really, because of the Victoria or the high level bridges has got limitations. So I think that's a really, thanks for your comments, Liz, about in terms of the presentation. And let's just get the media out there and carry on trying to work through the system so that we can actually get a preferred location. Phil, you want to say something?
Thank you. Just following on from what Liz was saying, there is a real demand from the community, from all sectors of the community, to identify a route, not necessarily build a bridge, but certainly identify a route, corridor.
Are those sectors aware that that will have cost implications, just identifying the location?
Yep. And then secondly, I think it was about 2 months ago when the Auckland Bridge was it was needing repairs because of that truck blowing over and stuff. There was discussion here that there was going to be some comms going out from us to the community about what was all discussed at the meeting last week, and I think Dawn mentioned that there was going to be some comms, or would be a good idea to put some comms out to let the community know. So just following up from that, really.
Yeah. Oh, look, the more we can inform the public, the better, really. Yeah. Yep. Okay. So, Graham, did you finish? Sorry, it was just the bridge. Look, apart from, as you say, all of those Christmas functions and things at this time of year, but I had a couple of days in Wellington with the National Council, and it's the vast majority of the discussion at the moment, and it's really early times because of the new, I suppose I was going to say the new, but Labor getting back in with such a majority. The expectation is that there's going to be significant changes in local government and quite quickly in terms of Three Waters and resource management, just to name probably the two major ones, but fresh water and urban reform. So the focus is really trying to put the local government case, not just Waipara's, but the local government case for our involvement in community affairs, and putting some emphasis, I suppose, on the level of support the government got from local government during the COVID pandemic. So look, there's going to be a lot more work in that field, and I suspect that there'll be a lot of changes and a lot of need for us to feed back information on some of the reforms, and particularly, as I say, the RMA processes and the discussion in the most recent, what's the guy's name? Did the Brandison report, talking about even planning being on a regional basis and setting up what appears to me to be another level of not the regional council doing it, but another regional organisation made up of representatives of each of the councils around, and the central government agencies affected: health, education, social services, all working in a regional committee. So as long as they bring to the table some money to come along with it, then maybe it would work. But certainly it's a major change, and effectively, if you think about losing the Three Waters planning, RMA work from a council portfolio, just what is left for council, unless there is some consideration given in terms of central government looking at what sort of work that they would see councils undertaking. So I think probably it's going to be the biggest era of reform since '89, and whether it's by stealth or a major reorganisation or not. But certainly there's change in the wind, I would suggest. So I'll keep you informed on what's happening there. But nothing further on the attendances. We're on to item 6, which is the confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting. of the 24th of November. So can I have a mover and seconder to receive this? Graham, and a seconder, Marcus. All those in favour? Contrary, carried. So if we just go through those for correctness, mindful that Claire's not here, so if anyone's identified anything, let us know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And page 7 is only the signature block. Move Councillor Gordon. Move second. The true and correct record. All those in favour? Contrary? Carried. Thank you for that. Documents signed under council seal. Gary, is there any?
No, nothing to.
Just
to
warrants?
4 staff warrants.
Everyone happy with those? That Councillor O'Regan and Elwyn. All those in favour? Contrary? Carried. Cambridge Wastewater Treatment Plant. Gary Marie.
Thank you, Bishop. So
Swan song, is it?
Yeah, so this is an extension to our contract, and unfortunately, this is one of Marie's last appearances before you, and just before she starts, this has been quite a difficult and contentious issue to work through. That's required a lot of diplomacy and hard work, and I just like to thank Marie for all the hard work she's done with this particular contract. So over to you. Thanks, Marie.
Thanks, Marie. And I just reiterate Gary's comments, and even and the commissioners, I think, acknowledged all of the work that you've done in the background to get us to this point. So thanks very much for all your hard work, and we wish you well for your new job when you eventually. When do you move out?
24th will be my last day.
Okay.
Yeah. So thank you very much.
No, that's right.
It's been an interesting journey, that's for sure.
Yeah. You got to take the opportunities when you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. So.
So this is a contract extension for Fulton Hogan's, who have obviously undertaken, apologies, I don't have COVID, it's just hay fever, and I did go get a test. For Fulton Hogan, who have undertaken the short-term consent upgrades for us at the Cambridge site over about the last just over 12 months. So this work was having them undertake some more operational basis once the previous sludge contractor sort of wrapped up their work. And so it's just meant that we've needed to increase their contract sum to cover the work that we requested they do. It was a simpler way of undertaking the works, then they owned the full site rather than having another contractor continuing while they were trying to work in the space at the same time to finish the upgrades. And this increase is just a reflection of that additional work that we requested they undertook. Any questions?
Yep. Okay, are there any questions Maria has? This is one of these projects we just got to keep working at and get it through to the conclusion. So yeah, move Councillor Stolwick, Andrew second. All those in favour? Aye. Contrary? Carried. Thanks, Marie. All the best. Have a good Christmas if we don't see you before. Okay. Item 9, the Prongia Village Concept Plan Refresh. Justine.
Thank you, Bishop. So Justine Kennedy is here to present this. Shame Claire's not here, because this has been quite a delightful project to have been involved with. But let's hear from Justine. Thank you.
Thank you. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yes,
This is the last time I see you beforehand, so have a lovely break. Yes, I've received a really lovely email from Claire this morning about this project, saying she loved it. She was really happy that the school got involved. We did actually invite the school kids to come here today. Unfortunately, it's their last, they have a big assembly this morning, so it was just too hard logistically to get some of the kids here, unfortunately, but we did invite them. I'll take the report as read. It's been a really fun project, this one, and I think it's been amazing what we've managed to achieve given this year's been so challenging in terms of obviously just COVID. The engagement side of things, we really like to do it as face-to-face as much as possible. So really proud of what we've done here and really wanted to include what the kids had to say, even though the refresh itself was actually obviously adopted back in September. Really wanted to give the kids a chance to tell us what they think, and they put forward some amazing ideas. In terms of the report, I've actually got a couple of little amendments. So on page 25 at the bottom there, it references Appendix A in the bottom paragraph. That actually needs to be corrected to the Pirongia School Engagement Report, and it's the same on page 27 under statutory and policy requirements. So my apologies for that, but I missed those couple of little amendments just to make sure it's not too confusing, so I can make sure I make those amendments. I can talk to governance about that. But yeah.
Okay, thanks, Jessie. So are there any questions that anyone has? Looks like a great project and successful. So
not exactly a question. I thought the report was fantastic. I really great to see the kids get involved and so clearly, you know, have heaps to say and so much interest in the future of their village. So yeah, congratulations. So it was well done.
yeah, Lou.
I'd like to second that recommendation too, because I think that after seeing the Pirongia School come along here and do the Enviro School presentation, they were absolutely superb. And I looked and read this and I thought this was absolutely an amazing presentation. And as I say, I'm only too willing to second that motion.
Okay, so I can take Andrew, you were moving, and Lou, you seconded rather than questions. There's nothing further anyone has got? Right. Yeah.
I don't know if it's in the action list.
It was certainly high on the list, wasn't it? But never mind. All right, so we have a mover and seconder. Is there, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Contrary? Carried. Thanks, Jesse. You have a good Christmas as well, eh? Okay, financial report. We're on to item 10.
Thank you, Your Worship. So NADA is here to present this. We're 41% of the way through the year for this report. And there are some adjustments to be made to the budgets, which will require a council resolution. So NADA, let's hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. The total operating income is currently at 36% of the forecast, and the operating expenditure is at 34% of the forecast. Development and reserve contributions of 1.7 million we have received to date, and that's 14% of the forecast. Subsidies and grants are at 48%. Overall, the gross revenue from significant activities is at 42%, and there's just a few slight variances due to timing. The overall gross expenditure from significant activities is 35%, and most of the activities are just below or above the anticipated 42%. Capital expenditure to date is 44.9 million, which is 27% of the forecast. The capital forecast budget totals 167 million. The graph there shows the areas and where it's tracking against the annual plan and LTP. And then with the rates, we are, there's 62.1 million set for the year. The outstanding from prior years is 218,000. There's a balance outstanding of 1.2 million for the current year. And the water rates, there's 6.4 million that has been invoiced for the year. The amount outstanding is 1.3 million. There have been 119,000 of prepayments, leaving the total amount outstanding of 1.4 million. And just like to point out on page, sorry, I'll just find it, with the rates graphs. Now I've gone past it. Page 58. It's taking forever to find it. Sorry. Should bring my mouse with me. The date on there that says for the 1920 year, thank you, is that is actually for the 2021 year. So that I just hadn't updated that. And if there was any other questions.
Yes, great.
Kenan, thanks very much for all the emails that were flying back yesterday and the updates. What I was trying to find out was what the situation is, and it turns out that there's water payments due on the 5th of January, and they didn't have to be included, but they weren't. But yeah, there's a lag. I just wanted to ask on page 56, the projected income from forestry at 2.498, and looking at my meeting the other day, or the finance meeting we had the other day, we got PF Olsen giving us a net figure of 707,000. Is the 2.498 ambitious? Should that be changed? Ken, am I missing something there, please?
I think you'll just have to give me the
Yeah,
opportunity
page
to look at that. So
forestry, page 56.
page 56,
yeah.
so you're looking at the activity.
Revenue.
Revenue, yeah, hang on a sec. Oh, okay. Yeah, so just bearing in mind, actually, obviously I don't have those figures right in front of me, but the 700,000 was essentially the profit. Yeah, so so look, the revenue probably wouldn't be too far out of the mix, because of course there's there will be the gross revenue from the harvesting. If you look further down the page, there's about there is about $2 million of expenditure. So so in fact it's not, well, I mean, it is out of bid, because that's but basically $2.5 million of revenue, about $2 million of expenditure. That's about $500,000. And in fact that would have been the original budget, but now they're indicating there can be profit of up to 700,000. You're correct about that. So so those are so for original budgets, those numbers are fine.
To me it appears a hell of a costly exercise to harvesting and replanting and everything, doesn't it? Like, we're not making zillions of dollars out of it. When you see that percentage of costs to get 707,000,
yes,
I would be saying to myself, do I need this investment? But it's probably something long term for the council that we can work on.
Yeah, so just bearing in mind, so a harvesting of a Pinus radiata forest is every 25 years or so. So the trees are growing for 25 years. Yes, they do cost a huge amount to harvest, because of course that's a pretty labour intensive exercise. Harvesting a forest, but as long as it's a positive result of $700,000 or so, so it's certainly a job worth doing.
Cool.
And then you basically start the 25-year cycle again if we were to choose to replant with plantation timber, harvestable plantation timber. Just a comment there.
I think we were informed that the trees had not been
pruned properly.
And it possibly cost us up to half or half the amount of the actual revenue.
Yeah, I thought about that.
So that would.
Your Worship, can I just ask Ken a supplementary question, or somebody? So when the COVID started, we had a change in our status about how we were treating a lot of the expenditure. Were we pulling back? Were we were concerned about the number of unemployed? What might be happening in all sorts of parts of the economy? So with the economy where it is now and a lot of the reports coming through, what is our status now? Are we going to review where we are? Because things are certainly a lot buoyant, particularly in Waipa and probably New Zealand in terms of business, expenditure. We've got a lower unemployment. There hasn't been a heck of a lot or any mortgage e-sales. I mean, I'm just trying to get a feel whether we revise that as a council when we come back in the new year. Do you want to make some comment about that?
Okay, so look, your comments are probably most relevant to a you know, you're talking about, do we review that in the new year? Of course, in the new year, we are going to be going out to our community with a draft long-term plan. We're going to be doing that in March. Then obviously we're going to listen to the community feedback, and then we're going to adopt by the end of June. So so we need to keep very much in our mind the economic conditions as we develop up and finalise that long-term plan. You are correct. The economy in general in New Zealand and Waipa particularly has been very, very buoyant. I'd encourage you to look at. I mean, we do need to think very carefully about the assumptions for the long-term plan. They have been well informed by economic views. Brad Olsen of Infometrics in particular. We have found obviously that a lot of our forecasting, we were forecasting a drop away in our consents, that has not happened. But we are still budgeting for or still built into our LTP assumptions is the potential for those to drop away at within the next 2 or 3 years. So there just may be some delays. I think we do need to be conservative in our assumptions. Yeah.
Thanks. Look, I agree with your comments, and thanks for bringing it up, Graham. And we do need to be mindful. But everything that I've read is that there's probably a delay in the impact of COVID. And whilst we're not suffering as much now, I don't think many of the commentators in the economy are saying that we're over the worst of it yet. So. Look, it's anyone's guess. It definitely hasn't been as bad as they forecast initially, but I'm not sure that we can think that we're going to be operating normally. And the one thing that's keeping our economy going, apart from the primary sector, is the housing market, which is huge and completely. Well, I was going to say not suspected to continue, I suppose, during this COVID period, but house prices and building costs and their consents are still way up. So I think our consent fees are right back to where they were anticipated to be. So, yeah, it's anyone's guess, but we've got to keep an eye on what's happening. You want to comment, Gary?
Oh, no, your worship, other than to say we've adopted a conservative approach for this year's budget and for next. And we're regularly forecasting what our end of year position will be, and given that the economy is performing as well as it is, we expect it to be a positive result at the end of this year. And then you can consider what that might mean in terms of how you might apply any positive result to the subsequent year.
Okay. So, sorry, through your worship, it is probably worth noting that next calendar year, in February when you next see a financial report, we are building a page of basically a one-page dashboard of how we are actually tracking in terms of things like consent numbers, etc. So that we are able to keep a really close eye on where economic activity is and the impact on our finances. So so watch the space. So a one-page dashboard will be added to these reports on an ongoing monthly basis from February next year.
What we're asking is that I didn't want council to be blundering along and not doing something that we could have actually achieved. you know, make sure that it gets done, because you know, it can come back to bite us by not doing that. And if we're in a better position, then you know, that's one of the things I'd be looking at. I mean, from my point of view, the farming sector is looking very strong, and it has functioned very, very well. And as I've said before this council before, the dairy dollar goes through the community 7 times. And there seems to be a good deal of activity going on in the business community. And so we might as well, if we're in a position to do something which we deleted earlier on, we could come and revisit that if that was a possibility, that's all.
Right. Thank you. Yeah, Bruce?
Just a question, and I know our rates owing is very small, and most councils would be the envy. Why is it doubled in the year? Is there any reason for that, except for the circumstances, like COVID as such? I know it's only 109, it's gone to 200 and whatever it is, 218, which is double it, but it's more, but is there any reason? That might be only a few race hours.
Yeah, so I don't think it was the COVID impact as such. We've had, and we did report on it maybe 2 or 3 months ago because we had the same question. It was because we've got a few sticky debts and it's all going through debt collection, but unfortunately the ones that are sticky are don't have mortgages on them, so it's just going through the process.
Any other questions? Henry?
Just so, I'll pass the page now, but revenue from significant activities is right on where we expected, 42. Expenses are 35. And so I'm getting, that's timing issues, basically.
Yeah, and generally speaking, we do see that year on year, we generally spend a bit more in the back half of the year. I guess the front half is often for planning and you know, building up to spend.
Particularly with regard to capital expenditure.
Yes.
Which actually seems 27% seems to be reasonably on track, actually. So, you know, that's good.
And also we generally, and I have my fingers crossed, that generally we have a little bit of a cash surplus at the end of the year too, which represents a little bit of that lag as well.
Okay.
So
I do have a question on page 58. The line below that rates for 2019-20, which should be 2021, is prepayment for future rating periods. It's 18 million up from 2 million the previous year. It just seems a hell of a lot.
Yeah, Ken had actually brought that up with me this morning and I am looking into that, so I'll get back to you if that's okay.
And the same with the page 59?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
cool. That's fine. So, yes, I'm sorry I was so late.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, I've been, I was trying to have a look and
No, it's good.
Didn't have much time, so I will get back to you.
Thanks, Nada.
All right. Any other questions? We're comfortable? So we have the recommendation there, and there's some changes to our to the budget. Gary, did you want to comment on those? They're pretty straightforward, and the $6 million funding that came from central government.
Yes, most of these adjustments as a result of the money that came through on the first tranche of the water reforms, 6.8 million. Were there any others, Nada, that you wanted to talk to?
I'm just going up. I think there was one for Parallel Road.
Yeah. So the parallel road adjustment was an incorrect adjustment done from the 4-month report. So I think we did state that in there, and it was just weird. It had been identified as savings, but it actually shouldn't have been in the 4-month report. So
yes. Yes, I think we got a little optimistic about some savings there that didn't transpire. So so we forecast the savings, now we've unforecast them. So apologies for that. And then I think the last one was it was a smaller amount. It was about $400,000 in transportation, wasn't it? So yeah. So and actually, sorry, that again was government funding in regard to a PGF application on behalf of the 3 councils to do that work. So so we're just bringing that into the forecast effectively, but fully funded by central government funding.
Okay.
Yes, it was.
Lou.
Yeah, thank you through Your Honour. I just feel very strongly here that a conservative budget is very, very important at the moment, because we are looking at things like 3 waters, which we do not know what our commitment is going to be as a local authority. It could be quite significant. And I do think that having a conservative budget is probably a good positive at this point in time.
Excellent. Okay, any other questions or discussion? If not, can I have a mover and seconder? Is everyone's comfortable with the budget changes? Councillor Webber, Councillor Coles, all those in favour? Contrary? Carried. Item 11, audit and risk.
Thank you. So, Jenny, we'll
Thanks,
here
mate.
to report number of fee updates. It's quite a big meeting. So, Jenny, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll take the report as read. So for the risk management update, you'll see that the Office of the Auditor General has used us as a case study, and we're about to produce the feedback on that, and that report will be going to Parliament in May. Very little change has come through in terms of the feedback. It's a very good story about our journey through risk management at Waipa. There were some complimentary things said, so that was a bonus. And as per the earlier comment about the financial dashboard and the key risk indicators, that will also be, the dashboard itself will be to FMC monthly, but in the quarterly risk report, there'll be the red, amber, green status of how those KRIs are going, and we will report by exception. One of the other areas was the professional services panel audit, internal audit, and of course we do that in conjunction with Waikato Less. The issues raised, because we were graded as developing, are largely addressed by the new contracts module, and that's still on track for February 2021 implementation. And there's a new contracts administrator being appointed at WLS, which will tidy up some of the administration stuff that's in. There's also an area for improvement. The next thing I'd like to talk about is the annual work plan for the Audit and Risk Committee. We have moved the Treasury and tax governance updates to F&C because we think that's a more appropriate place now. And we've also added in a bit more predictability about what internal audits will be coming to the committee and what deep dives will be undertaken. So, and that's the one area that we would be interested in any comments from elected members. And finally, the LTP, the engagement letter, audit engagement letter has been agreed, and that audit will commence early February. And the audit report of the annual report was signed off. We are the first of the 6 councils to be signed off. We were praised for our COVID disclosure, and yeah, there was only a couple of matters, and one of those is actually a wider issue of the definition of road accident performance data, and OAG are working with DIA on that. And the other thing that is, although we just mentioned in passing outstanding management actions, they've largely, there's a lot of work that's progressed that will result in them being closed after the next audit. So happy to take any comments unless Ken wants to add anything.
Yeah, look, I was just going to say, and through you, your worship, so you'll notice that the recommendation is actually the part B of the recommendation is asking for council's endorsement of that work plan that Jenny mentioned. That work plan is in Appendix 3. So yeah, so just yeah, so we're looking for you to endorse that today. So any comments at all on the work plan would be good to yeah, to understand those now, so that we can actually. Yeah, so you can actually resolve in a few minutes to adopt that.
I've got one. When you deep dive into the top risks, in the next year you don't address 2, 4, and 9. Is there a reason why they're not touched? They're not as risky as the other risks?
They're actually covered off elsewhere in the reporting that we're doing. So that was the footnote. So we haven't scheduled them as a specific discussion because they are being covered off. And just a reminder, those are an informal discussion and the public excluded. It's more to increase understanding about some of the drivers and mitigants.
Yeah, okay. Any other questions, particularly in terms of the work plan?
Yeah, through you, your worship. No, not at all. I think the work plan's a whole heap of work and very appropriate. But I'd just like to congratulate both Ken and your team on the evolving evolution. Thank you is the word of this committee, because it is a work in progress. It doesn't happen. It doesn't just grow fully fledged. And I think the comments you've received from the Auditor General's office is a real, feather in your cap, and well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Moved Andrews, seconded Roger. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Contrary? Carried. Thanks, Ken. Thanks, Jenny. I'd just reiterate those comments. It certainly has advanced very rapidly, our Audit and Risk Committee. So, and it's great having Bruce Robinson on board as well, isn't it? So, real advantage having no criticism of Claire, but it is an advantage having an independent chair. Yeah. Yeah, thanks. Okay. Item 12, the meeting schedule for 2021. No discussion, Liz and Lou. It is what it is. It's the Americans have started today, isn't it? Yeah, no discussion. Okay, all those in favour? Contrary? Carried. Now, John, is John, just see if he's, oh, good. Do we need a resolution to adjourn the meeting? Because John, this isn't an agenda item.